Hello, I'm Christy Moss, and this is Good Morning Syracuse. And today I'm reporting the feel-good story of the season, the one you all voted on our website. We are talking about the beloved longtime couple, Grace and Forrest Teller from Syracuse, New York. Shout out to you for winning our contest this year. And for those of you who haven't been following their story, you don't need to follow it. We're going to report on it right now for you. All right, so get your cup of morning coffee, get your breakfast going, pause it if you need to, and let's get into the feel-good story of the season. Now, of course, I can't just tell you the ending and be like, surprise, there you go. Let's start at the beginning. When Grace and Toby Teller met, which most true love stories, true good love stories start in high school. They are no different. And why I think most of us fell in love with them in the first place. These two met when they were 8 years old. And from 8 to 15, they were best friends, inseparable, did everything together. Grace was, even though she was a girl and he was a boy, and she was completely girly, and he was very much into sports. They were opposite in every sense of the word. You couldn't keep them apart. They entertained each other. They had a bond unlike anyone. Even their parents knew that they would wind up married from very beginning when they were just friends. They just had that spark. Everybody who grew up with them reported about them having this natural chemistry. They were always laughing. Any adults around them, they all said the same thing pretty much. They knew they would grow up and be together. They just couldn't see them with anybody else or any kind of lifestyle. And of course, you know, in true high school fashion, when high school ends, two people break apart and go their own way. Oh, no, not these two. See, these two, unlike most high school couples, had great adversity from the beginning. During their senior year, unfortunate for the time, but not unfortunate overall, Grace became pregnant. And of course, them being seniors in high school, that's a very scary thing. And they came from very strict religious families, especially Grace's family. Grace's family actually pretty much disowned her. From the moment she told them about the pregnancy, they didn't want anything to do with her. They were very much involved in their community of Mormons, and they didn't want to be shunned or embarrassed. So Toby's family, who wasn't much better than hers but more accepting, took Grace in. It's the heart of the story, which makes it even more sweeter where she moved into. We'll get to that later. But so there you have Grace and Toby, and what's supposed to be the prime of their life, the launch of their life. Toby, at this time, was a talented musician. Before the pregnancy news, he was gearing up to fly to New York City to try out for American Idol. He had one of those voices that you just felt in your soul. And he could play any instrument you put in front of him. He was just a natural. Everybody knew he was a star. He was going to be a star. He had a lot of people interested in him. He put up clips on his Facebook page and it became viral. He was that good, and he had record labels looking at him that wanted to sign him. But when he found out about Grace and he told them about Grace, they pretty much told him if he wanted to be a star, he had to leave his pregnant teenage girlfriend behind, and Toby wasn't okay with that. And so he gave up not one, not two, but 3 separate record companies to stay with her, and not out of obligation, not because Toby was like, well, this is my life now, but because he genuinely loved Grace, and any record company that wouldn't allow him to be with her wasn't a record company he wanted to be involved in. He had such character from such a young age, and so did Grace, who, here was a girl who, like Toby, had a lot going for her. She was a genius. Her IQ test levels were through the fucking roof. Oh, I just got fined by the network, but you get my drift. Big success going to Harvard. She got accepted. Her family was excited. And then, of course, the pregnancy news, she tried to reach out to Harvard. Harvard said, we can't hold your scholarship. And without the scholarship, she couldn't afford it. So, what choice did Grace have? She had to stay home. She had to go to community college, but she wasn't going to give up, and neither was Toby. And for those first few years, Toby worked third shift in a factory, went to class all day. Grace, too. When the babies came, Toby dropped out of school. Grace went online. She tried to keep up, but couldn't. Eventually, she went into trade school. She wanted to learn how to cook and bake. She thought that would be more productive, something she could make money out of her home and be able to raise her kids. Toby supported her. He worked in the factory. She stayed home during the day with the kids. They cut out the daycare. They have this enormous array of knowledge for saving money, clipping coupons, and it all comes from this time of being teenage parents. Although Toby's family was supportive in the fact they let them live there, they still charged them rent, which was astronomical for the area. So eventually, Toby and Grace realized that they could afford to live off on their own in an apartment and save some money, so they did. So they had 2 babies. He was working a factory job, playing gigs on the weekends, like weddings for money. Never gave up music. And somehow, before the twins were 3 years old, between her selling cookies and muffins and cakes out of her kitchen and growing up in the community, everybody knows her, trusts her, and then her stuff is really good. So, she was getting a lot of business. They hustled. And they saved up enough money to buy a lot in the heart of town. And at that time, there was a grant in the area that gave them money to be able to build a first-time business. And at the time, bowling alleys were a very big thing. And the town was very small. There wasn't much to do. They wanted to kind of make it a one-stop shop. So they not only made a bowling alley, but they put a bar in it with a karaoke stage, some place where people could have parties, where they could get revenue from that, but also a restaurant because there wasn't much food options in town if you didn't want to cook. So you have a bowling alley / arcade for the kiddos, you have a family restaurant, and you have a bar area for when the kids are home with the babysitters. It was a genius idea for the town because it quickly became the heart of town and still is. You might have heard of it. It is called... Are you ready? I love this. Elfin' Around. Genius name. Elfin' Around Bowling Alley Bar and Grill is the formal name, but genius. Because Christmas is kind of the heart of that area of town. It's kind of known as ChristmasTown. It's where people go to get their Christmas trees and see Santa and do the Christmas parade. And so, the revenue for that type of time of year would be huge for them, and it was. And for a long time, it was very successful. Cut to 5 years later. Currently, here we are. They're twins. I'm sorry, not 5 years. Let me get my math right on live TV. Anyway, let's cut to the twins being 10 years old, which is current energy, current time, whatever you want to call it. Grace and Toby are still happily married, which brings us to why they win the story, or why they win the love story of the season, if you will. Why you voted on them. Not only did Toby give up the biggest chance of his life and be the most amazing husband and dad and small town business hero, but then right at the heart, when he thinks he's going to lose everything, and I know I'm jumping ahead, fate steps in for not one, but two Christmas miracles, not just for this family, but for an entire town. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. Let's talk about Grace first. Grace, eventually she grew up from the kitchen in her house and invested in a old school bus, which she converted into a food truck, a traveling bakery, which became a permanent staple in the town park. She pretty much stays parked in one location and everyone comes to her. She's that good. But every morning after she gets the kids off to school, she is out there for breakfast and lunch, and she's killing it, making money, holding down the family at this point, because let's talk about the heart. Every story has a little bit of a villain, if you will, and the villain of this story is the mayor of ChristmasTown. Her name is Mary Bright, and you'd think with a name like that she would be a bright ray of sunshine. Oh no, not Mary Bright in this story. Mary Bright was the ray of doom on ChristmasTown. You see, ChristmasTown just happens to be in a very trending area where a lot of corporate businesses and more expensive homes are being built. And so if you just kind of bulldoze what she considers eyesore lots, like the bowling alley and the local gas station and the antique store and the diner, places that have been there since the town formed, that are considered relics but beloved by locals, not so much by the newcomers. So what does Mayor Mary Bright with her gloom and doom do to try to get her wish of, I want to get these businesses out of the way so I can bulldoze it, and then I can sell the lots and collect all this money for the town, which really means she would launder it, which that will be a whole nother report on a whole nother day. Mayor Mary Bright will be in the headlines for weeks to come, but we're not going to let her taint the story too much. The only place in the story for Mayor Bright is the fact that she wanted to get these businesses out, and she knew the one way to get them out, and because they weren't picking up as much business and revenue as they used to, she would just have to raise the taxes and wait it out. Every year, she would raise them a bit more. More corporate companies are coming in and building. She's getting more investors interested in ChristmasTown, more offers on the table, and she's slowly pushing them out. And at this time, Grace and Toby are barely hanging on by a thread. Most of the other businesses in town were forced to sell. Their businesses got bulldozed to the ground. The only place left was alfing around. That's all the locals had from what's left of ChristmasTown formally, other than the Christmas tree lot that was still giving the mayor enough credit to get tourism in. So of course she's not going to take that away. But so we have a couple who's been in love and built this life and has this amazing business, and just a jerk of a mayor trying to take it from them, and the whole town counting on these two to be the one that sticks it to Mayor Bright and keeps the one staple, the one business. And everybody's trying to help. They're coming in, they're eating, but they're losing jobs. It's a hard economy, and it's just not enough to keep up with Mary Bright's demands. So the only choice they have is to go to social media and expose Mayor Mary Bright for what she's doing. And publicly, people step up. And every year, the taxes have been paid, and which is pissing Miss Mary Bright off. But yet she keeps raising it until, eventually the hero steps in, which is Toby, in doing his charity work, if you will, to raise money for his restaurant and to keep his town alive. He started singing again. It started just walking through the streets. Morale was down. People were sad. They're losing their business, just like caroling. But all year, he would just sing every night, walk around with his guitar and sing. And he became, beloved by people. People looked forward to hearing him every night. He had an amazing voice. He sang at his bar again most weekends. He brought people in, bands that were popular in the area to pick up revenue. He was doing whatever he could, and he got on social media and he was singing. And again, just like when he was younger, he got scouted. Remember what I said, just in the nick of time. So here we are, last Christmas, and why they're winning the story this year. The love story. I keep saying the story, but they're winning the love story of the season because Toby gave up everything to be honorable, and he shouldn't have had to. And here is the Christmas miracle of his twins are 10 years old. They're stable. They could go on the road. He would have never been able to go on the road with babies. And you got the same big type of companies looking at him, like labels looking at him. And this time, they love his family. They're accepting him as family. They love his story. And he feels good about it. And he's writing his music and he's flowing. And you may have heard his Christmas jingles that he dropped with his new Christmas album, and he has an album due out next year, which is projected to be a #1 bestseller. So, not only is this the feel-good story, because here was a couple who had twins as teenagers and the whole world was against them, rooting against them, all this adversity stacked against them. They built this life together. They stayed in love, and then you have this villain mayor that threatens that, and they dig in. And even though the whole town folded, they refused. They refused to give up the heart of their town, like they refused to give up the heart of their relationship and their love and their family. And for it, dreams came true again. They are now a family traveling like gypsies, living their best life. But you would think that would be the end of the story. And because he got a little bit of success, not only was he able to expose Mary Bright, but he was able to cap her taxes and set them at a reasonable rate. And he donated money so that each business of the original relic businesses could rebuild on their original properties. So basically he bought back all the lots for a reasonable rate and gave them money to rebuild. So Mayor Mary Bright didn't win, because not only next year is his album going to drop, but all those businesses will be finished being rebuilt, and the town will be back where it was. Even though they're not there to run it anymore, they did give the property to another young couple that could take on their legacy. Another young couple with 2 small children with adversity stacked against them. I mean, if that's not a feel-good story of the season, I don't know what is, people. And I'm so glad they won. Thank you so much for participating this year. Thank you so much for visiting the website and voting. I hope this feel-good piece was exciting to you. If you like this one, maybe next time the feel-good story will be a bit longer. I could dive into their hobbies. Let me know. Do you like these feel-good pieces? I hope you did. I enjoyed Grace and Toby Teller and their life. Anyway, have a wonderful holiday season, and I will see you all next time at Good Morning Syracuse. This is Christy Moss signing off. Just kidding. It's me. Hi. Fake news. Not a real reporter. And just in case you didn't know what Tinsel Tales was, this was a fake story that I made up for Christmas. If you want to know how I got the idea for this, you can look at the behind the scenes in the video below. I know it's rather short this time, but I wanted to see if maybe a shorter version would get more interest. Anyway, love and light. Bye! Oh, don't forget to like. Remember, I'm making these up at the top of my head, so I want to know which ones you're responding to, which ones you're liking. Talk to me in the comments. Like below. Please and thank you. See you next time. Bye!